Hello and welcome to Acoustic Review. My name is Ben Morgan-Brown and today I'm looking at the ToneDexter preamp from Audio Sprockets. ToneDexter takes a signal from your pickup and an external microphone and compares the two in order to create a wave map, which can then be applied to the pickup signal alone to bring back some characteristics of the mic'd sound. ToneDexter features 22 slots for storing and creating wave maps, XLR and quarter-inch instrument outputs, a character control for blending the original pickup signal back in with the wave map, a tuner with a built-in mute, a foot switchable boost with up to 8 decibels of clean boost, bass treble and notch EQ controls, an effects loop, and it comes with a power supply and sells in the UK for an RRP of £449. Getting the sound of a mic'd up acoustic guitar without any of the hassle of using a mic live and all the convenience of using a pickup is pretty much the holy grail of amplified acoustic tone, and the ToneDexter claims to be able to get us most of the way there. So let's have a listen to the preamp now and then come back afterwards for my thoughts. For the purpose of this demo, I'm using a Martin OM with a K&K Pure Mini pickup installed. Firstly, I'm going to go through the training process with you, and once the training process is finished, I'll be able to switch between the original pickup sound, the original microphone sound, and the ToneDexter wave map. The character knob on the ToneDexter allows you to go from a partially blended signal all the way to a fully wave map signal. So for this part of the demo, I'll be running through the full range of that control. Grabbing the ToneDexter out of the box, I was impressed by the feel and build quality of the unit. It certainly feels like a sturdy piece of kit, and I also like the fact that the foot switches are angled and well away from the controls, so there's no way that you could accidentally knock those controls with your feet whilst using the foot switches. The controls on the unit seem very logical and very well laid out, and it was only really the training and the character sections of the preamp that got me looking at the manual. Everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. I was slightly disappointed that the included power supply seems a little bit flimsy, and I'm always wary of equipment that does use a specific power supply, as these things do tend to get lost or broken quite easily, but that is a minor quibble. Training the ToneDexter is very simple. You basically plug your guitar and an external microphone in, and then the ToneDexter handles the rest, including setting the level of the microphone. You can pause the training and listen to the microphone if you want to adjust the sound at any point. Then you go back to the beginning to carry on training again. But I actually found that the standard 12th to 14th fret position of the microphone sounded just fine as it is. When I heard the results of the ToneDexter, my first reaction was, wow, that actually sounds like an acoustic guitar. All hint of quack and muddiness from the pickup was removed, and there was a lot more character and detail in the sound than there was on the pure pickup alone. Through headphones and on recording, the sound was amazing, but I did find that going through a small acoustic amplifier, there were a few frequencies which were ringing out, and there were a couple of times where I did encounter some feedback using the ToneDexter. However, this was easily dealt with by using the character control and by EQing the ToneDexter signal. The EQ controls on the preamp itself are fine for simple adjustments, but to be honest, I found them to be a little bit limited when more complicated adjustments was needed in a live situation. Having used the ToneDexter at a few gigs in the last month, I found that character settings 0 and 1 were the best for live use. I also found that the tone was better when I ran the ToneDexter into a more sophisticated preamp that had a better EQ section. And in those situations, I have to say I think the ToneDexter got me as close to my guitar but louder as I think I've ever been. That's not to say that ToneDexter is perfect. I did find that the tuner was a bit tricky to use live, and after the first gig I resorted to using my usual headstock tuner. I also found it a little bit difficult to change guitars during a set because you actually have to physically bend over and turn the wave map knob and then readjust your gain and tone settings for each different wave map. So if you are someone like me who gigs with one or more instruments, that's worth bearing in mind because there isn't a way to change the settings without physically turning the knobs. There are a couple of times where I missed the directness of my normal amplified sound, and also one gig where I felt like I could have done with a little bit more low end, but that was easily dealt with by dialing down the characteristic settings and blending in some of my original pickup sound. Those issues aside though, the ToneDexter performed really well in a live situation, and particularly through a good PA, it did sound fantastic. I think it's tempting to think of the ToneDexter as a silver bullet which will fix all of your amplification problems, but I think it's important to remember that like any amplification system, you do need to be able to EQ and adjust settings depending on the venue and the system that you're playing through. I think any of us who are constantly searching for a better plugged-in tone would be well served by ToneDexter. Yes, there's a slight learning curve to setting up the training, and some people maybe prefer a simpler setup. But anyone who's going towards the holy grail of my guitar but louder, I think you're going to get closer to that with the ToneDexter in your arsenal. At £449, it's not the cheapest preamp on the market, but it's certainly not the most expensive one either. And it's the only one I can think of that has the unique selling point of being able to model your own guitar. So if you bear that in mind, and when you consider the overall quality of the product, I think it is fairly priced. There's a couple of things that I'd like to change about ToneDexter if I was looking to make it absolutely perfect. Firstly, I'd like it to be powered by a regular IC cable rather than a dedicated power supply. And secondly, I think it would be great if there was a way of saving presets or swapping between wave maps without having to bend over and physically turn the knob. I did find that when I was using two guitars at a gig that was a little bit restrictive. I found myself having to look at the floor for a couple of minutes whilst I was adjusting things when I could have really been engaging with my audience. I also found it to be a little bit of a rabbit hole device. I found myself going back to wave maps I'd previously made and seeing if I could make them any better. So if you are a player who's prone to tinkering, I could see how the options of using different microphones and different microphone placements could draw you into that, and it could be a never-ending quest for perfection. But even without obsessing over tiny details, the difference that ToneDexter made to my tone was amazing. I actually felt for once that my guitar sounded like my guitar when it was plugged in, particularly when I was playing through a larger PA with a competent sound person at the board who could dial out those troublesome frequencies which were causing me some issues through my own amplifier at home. Obviously, there's lots of very good pickup systems out there, and there's some not so very good pickup systems as well. But with all the experience I've had in the acoustic world, I've never heard anything sound as good as the ToneDexter did when it was fully dialed in. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Acoustic Review. Please subscribe and follow us on social media to be notified of when new videos are posted. And I look forward to seeing you again next time.